Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge and welcome to a highly requested recommendation video which we're going to dive right into today because my attention span is real short, so this may be a speed round recommendation, but that's just how it's going to be. Sometimes videos are shorter than others and I just have to be okay with that. It's okay. So we're doing Groveling Heroes, which is something that I think a lot of us love. I especially as someone who really likes asshole heroes, but it is also important for a good grovel now and then. Like, you can't just be like an asshole and never change. I mean, sometimes you can if you're Carter Mahoney, but otherwise if you are a, good person, you're eventually going to need to do a little bit of a grovel, right? Okay, so we're going to dive into these. And like I said, it's going to be a bit of a speed round, but it's going to be good. So a book that is on a lot of people's lists if they've read it is The Day of the Duchess by Sarah MacLean. This book is the third book in the Scandal and Scoundrel series. This book is basically set up from the first chapter of the first book, where we know that there is this Duke who he has not been good to his wife. He has been cheating on her. He has chased her away, and she is sick of it and ready to live her life. And so in the beginning of this book, after having seen how he's treated her a bit in the past, we see that she wants a divorce. And so she makes a big bang on the floor of Parliament and she's like, I want a divorce from my husband. He agrees to give her the divorce if she can find her own replacement, the person to be his next Duchess, before she goes. But of course, that is not Mal's real plan. His real plan is to win her back throughout this. So this book is very emotional. It's very powerful, especially if you have read through the arc of it, through the story, because you have a pretty dark picture of Mal going into this book. But I knew that it was going to be epic. I have lots of friends who love this. I love Sarah MacLean. Her books don't always hit perfectly for me, but this is one that it just like tore me up. And the hero, I feel like, does his damnness to give his wife everything. And it's beautiful. Then this is a curveball here, but I have Wicked Abyss by Kresley. So something I should have said at the top of this list. These books have varying degrees of grovel in them. Some of them, the whole book is a grovel. Some of them, it is only a certain portion of the book, but it is a really powerful one. And for me, that's Wicked Abyss. This book is about Abyssian. I think he goes by Cian. I can't remember how we pronounce it. And then Princess Kleypas, who goes by Mila. And they were a kind of fated mates through time. She's a reincarnation of that woman, and he has a lot of anger towards his previous mate because she really fucked him over. And so he takes it out on her. Now, she's been sent to his keeping by some people to try to get her redemption, to bring her back into her community. She's a fairy princess, literally. But, as she spends time literally as his captive, he begins to see that she's completely different from that woman of the past. Even if she may be a reincarnation, she's definitely a much different woman than then. The grovel that he has at this book when he realizes that he has really fucked up, I just love. I feel like Kresley does this really good. Quite a few of her books, the heroes start out as complete assholes. And when they become soft and squishy just for their heroine, they usually go through some form of a grovel. But this is one that I feel like this book doesn't get brought up as much as some of the other Kresley, and so I wanted to throw it out there because I feel like it's good. Then I want to pop up Never Sweeter by Charlotte Stein. This book, guys, this book's tough. This one has, if you have body issues or plus size characters who are a little bit tough on themselves, be cautioned. I feel like the heroine doesn't do that too much, but she does reflect on some bullying she's been through, particularly an event caused by the hero of this book, which left her in pretty bad straits. Now they're running back into each other a few years later. They're at the same college, and he is looking to make it up to her. And she's just like, stay the fuck away from me. My mental health went through the ringer. All of these things. There's no way I'm ever going to trust you again. And he begins his epic grovel. And for me, the issues that we talk through and the things we talk about, for me, this was very cathartic in a way of like, if I had been able to fall in love with someone who was a high school bully for me. The thing is, the kind of bullying in this book, though some of it's unrealistic, a lot of it felt more real than a lot of bullying we see. Like, the kind of bullying you see in Untouchable is not the everyday kind of bullying that people deal with when they're overweight when they're in school or things like that. But as someone who personally was overweight, still is, but was particularly overweight when she was in high school, there are those kind of bullies that you know that when they're an adult, they'll be ashamed of what they are doing, but it still hurts you when it's happening. Does that make sense? It's not the kind of bullying that involves assaults or, you know, Carter Mahoney level things, but it's those little everyday things that really just tear down your self-esteem, and you know that when that person's an adult, they're going to feel like shit that they were like that. So I really enjoyed about this book getting to see what that could look like. And I mean, it's still kind of a fantasy because the things that happened to her, I don't know if I would forgive them, but I liked it a lot. Then there is Filthy Dark by Serena Akeroyd. This is book 3 in the Filthy Fecker series, and this is a surprise baby, okay? This is a secret baby, not a surprise baby, it's a secret baby. But because if you know me, you know that a secret baby works for me when it is in a mafia setting. I have multiple examples of this because I feel like if a mother is hiding their child from a mafia, I'm not mad at them. Even though, like, emotionally I'm like, no, don't hide your baby. Like, I understand. And particularly in this one, I understand because this story has some flashbacks in it, and these two were actually lovers when they were young, but he was actually with her quote-unquote best friend, but it was for reasons, and he was having an affair with her. And then some crazy shit goes down, and her friend dies. And he says that he never wants to see her again because he's trying to rescue her and send her away, and she happens to be pregnant at that time. So that stuff happens in the past. But in typical Serena Akeroyd fashion, the way that this heroine comes back into our hero's life is pretty amazing. It's been 16 years. Her son is, you know, a teenager. And the way that this hero is just so in awe of the way that she raised his kid. And in a non-typical fashion, like in a non-fashion, he isn't even mad for a second. He just immediately starts planning how he's gonna woo this woman back, and how he tells his family, don't you dare be mad at her. Don't you fuck with her. Because the things that I did to make her leave me, she should have left. And I've never read a secret baby quite like this one. Because she really just, it worked for me so well. The way that I believed the heroine, and the way that the heroine grew some balls, because she was a teenager when she was going through this, and she just thought he was the sexiest man ever. And even though he was cheating on her best friend with her, you like believed that as kids they would fuck up like that, right? You believe that as young people that they would be cheaters, right? I know that's not great, but still, because this isn't written as a new adult story. This isn't 20-year-olds cheating on each other. This is people in their late 30s who are realizing the ways that they have made mistakes and that they wouldn't have done back then. And the grovel that this hero does, including buying her some very beautiful pieces of art, just got to me. Serena Akeroyd is always a winner for me. Then we have a fun little historical here. This one is called The Ugly Duchess by Eloisa James. This is about Theodora Saxby, and she ends up married to James Rayburn, who is a privateer, kind of, sort of. And she is not the prettiest girl back then, but he like needs her money, so he ends up wooing her, and then he goes away. And then he comes back and she is just the toast of the ton. She is the belle of the ball. She is who everyone wants around her, and she wants away from him. And so he needs to eat some crow and apologize and win his Duchess before he loses the greatest thing ever. Not quite as intense as like the day of the Duchess, but this definitely has a beautiful grovel. And Eloisa James just writes steamy, delicious beautifulness. So definitely give this one a try. This is part of her fairy tale retelling series, which is so exciting. I believe that I am reading this book in May even. I'm doing a reread. I think I am. I'm doing a reread of some of her books, and I'm very excited for it. Then there is A Heart of Blood and Ashes. And this is one where we see all of the horrible things that the hero is doing to our heroine. From the first time that they're on the page together, when we start to see the things unravel, we understand our hero's perspective and we know why he's doing this. But even as he's doing these horrible things, we ourselves are keeping a debt counter. Like you just are. You're keeping a collection of these debts because you're like, Matic, how are you ever going to pay off all these horrible things you've done to Yvain, who you fucking love, because Yvain is the best heroine who's ever existed. Fight me. Fucking fight me. She's amazing. And she gives him chance after chance until a certain point where she's like, your chances are done. And of course, just at that time, our hero starts, it's like that TikTok where they're like, oh, I fucked up. That's exactly what's happening. And the way that and this is one where like there's some very specific moments. Because even when our hero is trying to grovel, he's never had to grovel before. And he's not doing a great job. He just keeps fucking up. Really, it's poor Matic. He's an idiot. But the way that he pledges his love, the way that he proves himself at the end, I might even have to pull a Jenn quote here. Let me see if I can find it easily. This one. So it's a cultural thing though, but he's like, well, I'm going to shave my beard now. And she's like, why would you do that? And he says, because you no longer will need to tug on it when you want me to listen. Always I will listen to you, and always I will hear your words. Which, if you haven't read this book, you don't know what that means. But if you have read this book, I actually wrote in this book, that is how you grovel. Because all through this book, our hero is saying that she has a lying tongue and he can't believe anything that she says. And then even at a certain point, he's like, well, you don't realize that you're lying. So I'll forgive you for the things you've said. And she's just like, motherfucker, I haven't told a single lie. And so that's his grovel. Sorry, if you haven't read this book, you have no idea what I meant. But I feel like, though it is short, the grovel that we see from Matic is very beautiful and powerful. And this is a man who is humbled by his own stupidity and his cruelty. And when he's faced with it, in the face of this pure, beautiful soul, he is like, I will bow to you. You are my queen, and I'm sorry that I was such an asshole. And that is respect. Respect Matic. I love it. Then there is Target on Our Backs by J.M. Darhower. So this is the third book in a trilogy. And this one is actually a heroine doing some groveling, in my opinion. This story, I don't want to spoil everything about it, but this is a mafia story. This is an age gap. This is a I got with you to get back at your family situation. There's a little bit of a captor-captive, not really, but it's there if you squint a little. But by this third book, we're in a completely different place. And there are some things that the hero has done that the heroine can't imagine that she could, like, well, and it's both ways. That's what I mean. It's like, in one of the earlier books, there's some things that the hero has done that he doesn't know how she could ever forgive. And then later on, time after time, he proves that he would ruin everything for her. Okay? So a bunch of this series is the hero's grovel. But I feel like by the time we get to the third one, the hero is a little bit exasperated, and it's kind of like, I've done everything I can to prove to you that I love you, and if you don't care anymore, then we have nothing. And that's when the heroine kind of steps up, finally, and is like, you know what? You're right. this is worth saving, and I know that you value us, and yeah. So that's a bit of a twist. I like that it was a heroine who did some groveling too. Even though I know that I said groveling heroes, I wanted to slip that one in there because I think that they both do some groveling throughout this series. So there's that. Then there is A Deal with the Devil by Amelia Wilde. So this is actually the second book in the Poseidon trilogy by Amelia Wilde. And if you've read the first book, you know why the hero needs to grovel on his fucking knees. And he does. That's all I'm saying about that one. That's all I'm saying about that one. Because the series isn't even finished yet. And the grovel that I saw in the second book made everything that happened in this book, like, work for me. And it's that kind of grovel where you're just like, who am I without you? Like, I was not a man before I loved you. And I love that. I love that shit. I eat it right up. And then the last one I want to talk about is one I actually just recently read. And it's the one that pushed me into doing this video finally. And that is Prince of Dreams by Lisa Kleypas. This is one of her earlier works. This is a very interesting one. So it takes place in London in the 1870s. So it's Victorian, late Victorian era, or more like mid-Victorian era. And it is about a Russian prince named Nikolai and Emma Stokehurst, who he has had a thing for a while, and she is about to be proposed to by someone else. And so he kind of makes a move, does a little bit of a slimy maneuver, and positions himself as the one to be with her. He does a bit of wooing of her, but everyone is warning her to stay away from him. Now, the thing that is tough about this book, for me it was the toughest part, is that the heroine is kind of a bitch. And a little bit stupid. And honestly, the hero is able to manipulate her without too much work, and so it's hard to kind of respect her in the very beginning. Because I'm like, I'm into this guy. But if you are truly not into this guy, why are you letting him kind of get you into these positions? And I don't mean sexual positions, but this book is actually broken into 3 parts. So the first part is him like wooing her and them getting married, which happens early on. And then the second part of this book, because quickly in their marriage, it becomes clear that Emma is actually starting to fall for him now. But he never married her with plans to love her because he feels like he's too broken or fucked up or whatever to love someone. So he's tricked his way into her life, become her husband, and then he stonewalls her, like he cold shoulders her, and it's painful. It is painful to watch. But then something happens. Nikolai gets Ebenezer Scrooged. In case you don't know what that means, because I won't take it for granted that you do, there is a short novel, well, I don't even know what it's officially called, by Charles Dickens about Ebenezer Scrooge. I'm sure you've heard about it at Christmas time, where he is a miser and a cold-hearted asshole, and he gets shown his past, what's really happening in the present, and what his future looks like if he doesn't change his ways. The way that Nicholas gets Scrooged, I don't want to tell you, because that's the purpose of this book. But what happens to him in part 2 leads us to part 3, which is an epic grovel. Or part 3, I guess there's 4 parts, but part 4 is this epic grovel where this man does everything to change his ways and fix the problems that he has, not only with Emma, but with other people in his life. And I just can't think of another book that has this, like, and the extended amount of grovel. Because that's something like in A Christmas Carol, like, he comes back and everything's fixed, right? Whereas in this one, he really shows that he's changed, because he has ruined things so fully with Emma that it's gonna take more than just some smiles and buying her some pretty things to fix it. But this book, I really enjoyed it. Some people had some problematic issues with this, and like, I don't, because as horrible he is in part 1, he has to be that horrible so that in part 4 we can see him completely change who he is, and it's beautiful. So there you go. I hope you liked these Groveling heroes and a heroine. Let me know some of your favorites. There are others too, but these were the ones that I just really wanted to share today. So thank you so much for watching this video. I put up new videos 3 to 4 times a week, and you can check some of those out right now. Bye!